Fascinating city. Time is money. Appointments. Busy schedules. Power lunches. Hot streets. Cold air-conditioned buildings. Scraping the skies. Crowding out the daylight. Back to New York. Fascinating city. People on the go, trying to get a taxi. Gridlock of hailing arms, gypsy taxis speeding, rushing. 42nd Street, Broadway, Brooklyn Bridge, Soho. It's a nice name. Back to New York. Fascinating city. A sad-eyed, world-weary cabbie burst into tears when I asked him to show me the location of Ground Zero. He stopped the taxi, got out, and spread his arms. "Missus," he said, "this is where we stood and witnessed this horrible tragedy. This is where we cried and held arms in sorrow and solidarity." Back to New York. Burned at the edges, but not consumed. Fascinating city. Xaviera. What I'm all about. I'm cheerful, basically. I'm a happy person. No more happy hooker, but I'm a very happy person. I have no morning tempers, and I have an enormous stamina. I have an uncontrollable temper. People don't know when I fly off the handle. But I can also be funny or gay. And I'm talking about gay in every sense of the word. Like I'm in a lesbian relationship. In fact, I'm trisexual. I'm the woman that will try anything once, at least. Xaviera. What I'm all about. I'm a very energetic, impatient person. I have a lot of flair, but I'm also warm. At the same time, I can be quite cruel. I'm always punctual, so I'm always on time.
but I'm also thriving on deadlines. I seem to attract eccentrics or odd people, often quite submissive characters. I'm a dominant person. Xaviera. What I'm all about. They used to call me a sex maniac or a nymphomaniac, but I don't think I'm a nymphomaniac. Because a nymphomaniac is one who thrives to get pleasure out of sex and never quite makes it. And I tell you, I've made it many, many, many times. When I enter a room, my presence is known. If you could see me, there's no way of getting around me. I'm also being told that I'm a top lover, which scares a lot of men because they think they have to perform according to my demands, which is the truth. Xaviera. What I'm all about. I've never been known to be crashing totally. I've had my black bits, but when I'm down, and really down, I'm really what you call in German himmelhoch jauchzend, zum Tode betrübt. I can go sky high, or I go into a deep pit. But those pits are not often there. But if they're there, they're very deep. I wallow in my worries. I don't have many worries, but if I have a worry, I can get totally enveloped by it. And that's basically all in a nutshell. I have written the book, the famous book, The Happy Hooker, in 1971. And it's been what you call the monkey on my shoulder, actually, for many years. It's been my claim to fame, and it's kept me happy, wealthy, and relaxed, and very well known worldwide for 30-odd years. It took me 18 years before I was ever allowed to get back to the United States. I was banished in 1971. But even now that I've had a visa for the last 10 or 15 years, every time I pass the border, especially in America, especially in Houston, something goes off, the alarm, the computers, I'm still in the system, no matter what visa or stamp I have on my passport. So this is a story about what happened when I went to Houston, Texas, when I was still my former big mama. I was then still quite massive. I'm going through the immigration office and there's this man who realizes that I am the one that wrote the Happy Hooker, even though on my passport it says De Vries and not Hollander. So then you're being sent to a special room. No matter who's with you, that person has to wait outside, sit in a suitcase or whatever. It can take for hours. Those authorities are very, very bureaucratic, and they sure show their power to make you wait and suffer and feel humiliated. So I went to the office and I gave my papers to a few people there, and they passed it around. And after an hour and a half waiting, missing my connection to Los Angeles, finally this big black mama calls me up. Mrs. De Vries? So I come over, and she's sitting on this tiny office stool. Her ass is twice my size. She would make me look like Olive, you know. Papa and Olive. And she says to me, well, Miss Hollander. And she has this big grin on her face, like naughty in a way. We know what you've been up to. Can you tell me, are you gonna go into any more bunky business when you go to New York? Or to California, wherever you're going? I said, "What do you mean, madam?" She said, "Well, you know, the business you used to be in, you don't want to be a happy hooker again, do you? You're not going to start another bordello." I had to think quick, because how do you treat horrible customs officers and bureaucracy? By humoring me. So I said, "Ma'am," I looked at her up and down very disdainfully. And I looked at myself like, at our age and at our weight, we'd have to pay for it. With this remark, I had won her over. She burst into laughter. All her fat was rolling all over the chair, and she called her colleagues. "Hey, Jack and Jill, get your ass over here. Guess what? We've got the happy hooker here. Let's get her autograph. Anybody got a camera?"
I'd come to Bali in an attempt to find my roots in Indonesia. I hadn't been to that country ever since I left after the concentration camp period. So while I was in Bali, I hooked up with a couple of German men, actually. They were in their late 30s, early 40s, wealthy men, and one of them, Conrad, I remember clearly, invited me to come and stay with him at the Oberoi Hotel. I was staying on Kuta Beach in a small pension, but I moved in with him in the Oberoi Hotel. The Oberoi Hotel is a dream-like place with incredible towers and open rooms with views of the sky, and you could see the palm trees actually from your bed. And each house, the small house, had its own little swimming pool and total privacy. My friend Conrad and I were a team. We clicked right away, and his friend, who had a chain of department stores, I believe, in Germany, fell in love with a beautiful Moroccan girl. A woman, actually. She was a bit older than he was. She was kind of discreet and didn't want to mix with our shenanigans, we could say. Where Conrad and I were overtly sexual and sensual together, she kept it sort of in a distance. So they were kind of making love on a big bed. There's a big room, big apartment. On the left-hand side, when I was on the right-hand side of the room, right under the open sky. And Conrad and I were just about to make out when I had ordered already beforehand from one of the beautiful Balinese boys a tray of fruit, a platter of fruit, tropical fruit. By this time, I heard that his friend had approached the bed as well, and the two men came over to me, and before I knew what happened, each of them stood on each side of my body. I was lying on my back, and I had the two men on their knees next to me. And the girl was kind of watching this time. It was totally new for her. Meanwhile, the Balinese boy enters the room, the door was open, and I gestured to him to feed me the fruit platter, but in a very particular way, in an oral way. So he was putting the fruit on my pussy, and without saying a word, he started licking me out. Meanwhile, the two men, who claimed not to be homosexual in any way, did exactly what I told them, and I made them hold each other, like they were staring at each other. Cocks in between my mouth, between my lips, between my breasts, and I was licking and sucking them. And they were getting very excited. I could look up and I could see their eyes, they're staring at each other's eyes. And they were actually making love to each other. I was just the intermediary. So, very well prepared. I was happy to see that the boy down there was doing his job very well. And meanwhile, the girl started masturbating herself at the end of the bed also. So it was the most incredible four-way orgasm, and it was all punctual timing. But what's amazing is that when the Balinese boy left, I was satisfied. The two men were satisfied, the girl was satisfied. But the next day, when I said to the boys, or to the men, do you know that this was rather a homosexual experience you had? They both denied it. They were two top businessmen, very, very straight and very rigid. They said, no, this is kein Homoseksualtait. We're just friends for the last 20 years. I thought, well, it seemed a bit strange because you did come against each other's cocks over my tits and in my mouth. But I think it was the most exquisite fantasy come true. Because I've always dreamt about two men making love to me at the same time as making love to each other. November 2001, I happened to be in New York on a pre-promotion tour. I also was there to work on a perfume deal, product deal, carrying my name. So I went there with a rather square, you may call it, but very attractive businessman, my age, Hans was his name, who had never had such a hectic week in his entire life, in his 30 years of marriage. And he had great fun. So this is a sample of an anecdote that happened to us and how things happen in my life. We drove near Times Square. We grabbed a taxi, say Midtown Manhattan, and went to 42nd Street, which now is Disneyland rather than a smutty area. The traffic was jam-packed. I had a very, very attractive female taxi driver, which I only discovered after I took a good look at her, because she had short hair like most taxi drivers have. When she turned her face towards us to start talking with a very thick Spanish accent, I noticed she was a woman. And what kind of woman? She looked a bit like Barbara, the French singer used to look like, or Zizi Jamais, totally butch. She must have been in her mid-40s and very clearly Latin American, considering her accent was very thick. And I said to her, "You are the first female taxi driver I've had. Are you from South America?" She said, "Sí, señora, sí, estoy colombiana, I'm a Colombian." And I said, "You like women?" She said, "Yes, I like the woman very, very, very much." Meanwhile, she is looking all the time, backwards to me, instead of at the traffic. But it was so jam-packed that we went like step foot, very slowly. And within 10 minutes, she told us our entire life. And she said, "Well, I'm actually a sex worker. I'm a Putana. I'm a puta. I'm a whore." And so that's interesting. I know quite a few ex-sex workers and hookers in this town. In fact, we're having a party in 2 days' time. But first, tell me a story. I said, "How do you meet your clients?" She says, "I really like only the women. I'm a tortillera," which is a sort of omelette in Spanish. It means I'm a lesbian. "But I will take the man when they pay a lot of money, but there has to be a woman involved as well." And so here's her story. She said, "One day I drive the car and a very attractive woman, mid-40s, I like her mature, enters with her drippy bastard husband. You know, who needs those men except to pay for the bills?" She says, "Well, we had a long ride
all the way from uptown to downtown. And at one point I said to the man, I like it to make love to your wife. Do you mind? And the man says, well, I'll even pay you $100 if you want. She says, okay, fuck you. I don't want your $100. I want the woman only. I'll drop you off at your hotel and... Indonesia, Java, Surabaya, the Jain Hotel with ivory statues, ivory eggs in eggs in eggs in eggs, carved by Chinese hands. Batik, spread over wooden trunks. Hand-carved. Smells. Sounds. Tretes, mountain village. Waterfall. Tropical birds. Lots of greenery. Rainforest. Intimacy. Silence. Distance. The place where I was made. At the age of 33, I went back to Indonesia. I went to Surabaya, the city where I was born. And the amazing thing I remember from the city is the smells. The smell of ropes over the harbor. The creaking sound of the boats. Also the sound of the muezzin, the Muslims in the morning, praying to Allah. So the smells and the sounds and also the melancholic look of the people. The way they would wash discreetly on the side of the road. But basically very honest, beautiful, sensual people. But a trifle too melancholic for my taste. Then there's Bali. Incredible beaches. White beaches, and yet under the influence of magic mushrooms. If you eat a blue meanie omelette, it's full of black magic mushrooms, you go very stoned, and all the colors in the sand, they change like a mosaic. And then you have the sunset, when the clouds in Indonesia, in the tropics, the sun goes down very fast. Suddenly, from shining blue, there's colors of turquoise and pink and purple, and little clouds going by like little sheep, schapenwolkjes we call it in Dutch. And suddenly, within no time, it turns black. And I remember very vividly, with a full moon setting, stoned on magic mushrooms, with 3 friends, going into the sea, which is very calm, but very treacherous, very dangerous, and how I almost drowned. I was so perfectly happy that night that I went out with my 3 friends into the sea, singing out loud, "What a way to go! What a way to go! I want to die! I want to die!" And I walked and walked and walked till I had no sand under my feet anymore. And they stayed behind. And then the blackness of the sky and the stars and the moon. And suddenly I was drowning. Suddenly there was this undercurrent pulling me away. And my screams for help didn't help anymore. And I was getting very tired. Thank God for the warm water, otherwise I would have probably drowned. And then I looked anxiously for a wave to come up to get me back to the coast, but there were no waves. And finally I saw 5 witte schuimkoppen, 5 white tips of waves that were coming, getting a bit bigger and bigger and bigger and coming towards me. And I swam with all my power, my mighty power, until I reached shore. And the moment my feet touched the sand, I was still in the water. It was like I had the best orgasm in my life, to be alive again. And I fell onto the warm sand and I cried. It was beautiful.